It smells like hospital linen.
If I don't have a ton of peat and it's not physically assaulting me.
Tastes exactly like it smells.
Hey everybody, it's Mac McCormick here with Big Whiskey Rebellion. Today we're going to be talking about how bourbon drinkers love Scotch. They just don't know it yet. So we have 3 guests today. Can you please introduce yourselves?
My name is Melanie Martin. I like Scotch and I like bourbon. So I'm here to talk about it and learn more and see what there is to offer.
All right, my name is Christina Peroni. I'm in the Virginia Army National Guard. I own a couple yoga studios here in the Richmond area. I like Scotch. Not really a bourbon drinker, but I'm excited to try your picks today.
Awesome.
My name is Dawn Roy. I'm a local realtor and a big bourbon drinker. Love bourbon, and I'm learning to open my palate to a Scotch and can't wait to have this opportunity to try it.
Well, I think that you guys came at a good time because I do think that people that like bourbon sometimes are intimidated by Scotch, and it usually has to do with somebody who gave us Scotch once, who had a particular style of whiskey that they loved, but it's not really for all of us. My first experience with Scotch was actually this guy that I worked with when I was like 18, and he was a big Lafroig drinker. And he's like, "You gotta man up." And he handed me a glass of Lafroig, and I took a sip of it, and it tasted like gasoline on fire with burning tires in it. And I was like, wow. I mean, and so at 18, that was my definition of what Scotch was supposed to taste like. And I just really was like, wow, I will never like this stuff. And even then later when I would, drink some like Dewar's with soda or something, like I didn't really care much for it. And it wasn't until I really started learning about spirits I could teach myself about different qualities of whiskeys and really appreciate them. But I want to start you guys with some bourbon. I know you love bourbon. Scotch, you're still introducing yourself to.
Correct.
You just told me you usually drink Scotch. So I've served you before, but I've only served you cocktails, so I wasn't sure what you liked.
Right.
But you can try a really nice bourbon by itself. This is the Old Forester 1910.
I'm
Absolutely
excited.
delicious.
Very wonderful.
And I know you hate this bourbon
Smells
because
good.
I've never given it to you before.
Not at all, not at
Yes.
all.
This bourbon
Gosh.
to me is like a dessert.
It is
Yes,
so sweet.
it's great.
It reminds me, like, if you are making creme brulee and you take that torch and you caramelize that sugar crust on top, that's what
That's
this
really
flavor is to me.
Yeah, that's really good. It's so smooth.
There's a lot of vanilla there.
Big time.
It's smooth and it's sweet. Like I said, it just rolls over your tongue and it's so good.
Yes.
It's not too much of a burn because I do like a good burn, but it's not too much.
We've established that you all like this. Now,
Yes.
That's
you
really good.
already like Scotch, I know that, so that's a given. But before you drank Scotch, what were your thoughts on Scotch? Before you ever had it and you started to enjoy it?
I didn't really have any thoughts on Scotch. I hadn't tried it, and then one year, a few years ago, my husband's stepdad bought me a bottle for Christmas, and it was Macallan, and it was delicious, and that was like the turning point for me as far as trying Scotch and trying different Scotches as well as the bourbon.
That's a strange gift choice for somebody who doesn't like Scotch, or no Scotch.
He knows I like more of the brown liquors. I don't
Sure.
necessarily. I'm not a vodka person. I don't drink a lot of the white liquors. I like the brown liquors, and for some reason he just chose Scotch.
Yeah.
As far as I know, he was standing at the commissary down at the beach, and was asking someone standing there, "What's a good Scotch?" And I think they were Scottish, and they said, "This right here," and that's what he bought,
Well, that's
and
a
it was delicious.
great gift. It's
Yeah.
such a strange, like, I should just buy this for somebody.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
And
That's
I get
good. I'm
asked
glad
that
he
question
did.
all the time. Like, what should I get for somebody for their birthday or for their... But as a bartender, if somebody asked me, I want to buy this woman a bottle of whiskey, she doesn't drink Scotch, she loves bourbon, that would be not the one I would say you should buy this. Because if I
Right.
knew you like bourbon, I would try to find one in the price range that they wanted. So it's pretty cool that they did that because
Yeah.
it opened your eyes up.
It did.
You said you like Scotches already. And, what got you into Scotch to begin with?
Just being in the military, flying with all dudes and hardly and 0 ladies, and them drinking, Scotch and whiskeys all the time. I just figured I'll try it.
So
And so There were some that I did not like.
Right.
But then when I said I did not like them, they were like, oh, then you'll probably like this one. Try this one. And so I do definitely like the smoother scotches. I don't like the peaty or the smoky.
Yeah.
But that's what got me into Scotch, is just being around people who that's all they drink. Trying to fit in, you know?
Actually,
Want to be one of the guys.
I'm trying to fit in.
full disclosure, I'm not really a big peaty, smoky Scotch person myself. It's never been my palate. I have a sweet tooth, and I gravitate to the ones that are milder and sweeter and dessert-like. Actually, Micah, who's off camera right now but is filming us, that's all he wants. He's like a peat monster. He's like, if I don't have a ton of peat and it's not physically assaulting me, I don't feel like I'm actually drinking. And there are people that's all they want, and then there are people that they want the other stuff. And that goes back to what I was saying. Like, the guy that gave me my first Scotch gave me super peaty, smoky one, and I was like, oh my god, I can't drink this.
Yeah, my husband would say it tastes like dirt.
Well, it's more than dirt. I mean, some of them are, the Islay whiskey descriptors are like seaweed and iodine and char. There's so many crazy descriptors, and like for some people they're like, oh my god, it's so good.
I know.
And other people are like, why are you doing this to me? Like, it's like a punishment.
Take this away.
Yes. All right, so Dawn, you like bourbon. You're primarily a bourbon person.
Very much so.
You came from the wine world.
I came from the very dry red
Right.
wine world.
So knowing that, I would actually, if you sat down at my bar and I was the first person that was asking you about that, bourbon actually isn't the first one I would give you. Who gave you your first bourbon that you enjoyed?
So a dear friend of mine, and I'm not going to lie, so during COVID, I was collecting a few wine corks.
Yes.
It's how it went. And we were on the phone one day, and he goes, because you like the dry,
Right.
more of a savory leaning, you would trend towards a bourbon. You could learn to drink bourbons or any type of whiskey. I mean, that's kind of more of your. And once I started, he had me over to his house, he and his wonderful wife, and we started with rye, and we worked our way up and stuff. I'm open to experiencing. It's just not one I'm used to.
Well, typically when I find out that somebody is a big fan of red wines, I go a different direction than bourbon, and I actually grab something like this port cask Lamorange, which.
Well, when you said port, I mean, when you said
Yeah.
that.
I mean, that's adding a red wine note to the back end of any whiskey.
Right.
It also creates a more rounded flavor. It adds residual sweetness from the grape sugars, and it just creates something that most bourbon drinkers would love. But it also is something that a novice whiskey drinker who loves red wines would love as well. I picked this one.
Have you given this one to me before?
I
Maybe.
don't know.
Maybe.
You can already smell the port
Yes.
cast. There's already a red sweetness about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I like this one.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to grab a bottle over there to show you what I was talking about. So I'm going to go off camera for a second.
Please.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So good.
So wonderful to be with you.
Yeah.
So just so you can see what the kind that she didn't enjoy has the qualities of, and you don't have to drink this one because it's going to really interact with that one. But I'm just going to pour a little bit of this and show you, the breadth of Scotch whiskey.
And what is this?
This is the An Oa from Ardbeg. I can appreciate these whiskeys. It's just not my choice.
Oh, I
Now-
already know I'm not gonna like this one.
Oh, that's kerosene, dude. You just poured us kerosene.
that's
That's
not-
what you did.
No,
This is a
that's
really
the
nice-
I'm gonna put this
smoky
in the
peaty.
forerunner and take off.
Yes.
That's your deal. That's
Yes.
spicy.
It smells like hospital linen. Is that wrong?
I don't know.
Did I
Ask
just-
Micah.
I'm
I didn't
scared.
think of that
Are you
till you
scared?
said
Are you
it.
scared?
Let's hold hands.
Okay.
Let's
Here we
do
go.
it, girl.
1, 2, there you go.
It tastes very different than it smells. It's
See?
sweet.
It's not
and
at all
tangy.
as harsh as it smells.
Yes.
It does smell like a Band-Aid. I ain't gonna
I
lie.
don't know. Tastes exactly like it smells to me.
But-
I'll stick with the Scotch.
It does feel like I licked
And the
a-
bourbon.
some kind of
I actually grew up on air bases because my dad was in the military. And it does remind me of the exhaust of some of the planes that would fly by.
It's weird.
Yeah. Here's the thing about this style of whiskey.
Right.
Sometimes people try it for the first time. They're like, oh, wow, this is so interesting and unique. I love it. Other people are like actually like almost offended by it. Like there's a visceral reaction to it. But what I have learned is that most people over time can learn to appreciate it. And I'm one of those people. It took me a while to teach myself to appreciate those whiskeys. It's not
Anytime.
my choice. But
Now, do you find drinking something different alongside that has helped your palate to be able to
no, I mean,
accept it more?
no. It's just more knowing what I'm getting myself into. You know, it is a very abrasive flavor, and you have to be ready for that. And I would compare it to the idea of having smoked meat for the first time. If you didn't grow up around barbecue and things like that, the first time you have it, it's so different than anything you've had in your life. I didn't grow up in the South. I grew up in Japan. There was no barbecue like the way we do it here.
Right.
And so I remember the first time I went to a barbecue restaurant, I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever tasted in my life. It was so much.
Yeah.
It was almost too
I can
much
see
for
that,
my
yeah.
palate. And over time, I mean, this is.
I was gonna say that's what you serve now.
We are a barbecue restaurant. Like
Right.
Yeah.
and it's darn good.
I had to teach myself to appreciate it and understand the differences between good barbecue and bad barbecue. Just like there's some good Islay whiskeys and there's some really mediocre Islay whiskeys. But it is something that we can teach ourselves to appreciate. Would never be like, hey, you know what you should have. When it comes to the women that have come to my restaurant through the years, I would say 20% of the women that I serve shock me because this is like their preferred style of whiskey. And I, you know, as a dumbass bartender of all these years, like I never would have been like, you know what, women are gonna really love super smoky peaty whiskey that I hate. And my customers teach me a lot as a bartender, more than most people ever would realize. And so that's why I wanted you to be here for this particular show. So thank you very much.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having
Thank you,
us.
Matt. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Cheers.
Cheers, ladies. Here's to not drinking Band-Aids anymore.
Yeah, that's
I'll
right.
take it.